when you've lost someone, you just feel like something bad's going to happen again at any moment. And I feel like that is one of those ripple effects of loss.
Welcome to Grief City. And remember, if this is your first visit, you are not alone.
Hey, welcome to the Grief City podcast. I'm Nuella, and I am grateful to have you here. In today's episode, I want to talk about the ripple effect of loss. I don't know if there's anything in my life that since my dad died, grief hasn't touched. Is that the right way to say that? I think that's the right way to say that. Anyways, when someone dies that you love deeply and is a part of your life, somehow that death just has this rippling effect that impacts every single aspect of your life. And it's like, can I ever get away from it? Nope, you can't, because that's grief. This is something I have really witnessed unfold more and more as time goes on. A big thing I see this in is different fears that I have. A big fear that I adopted after my dad died was that bad things happened to me, which is not true, I know. But when you've lost someone, you just feel like something bad's going to happen again at any moment. And I feel like that is one of those ripple effects of loss in my life. And that's something I'm continually trying to work through and attach more, positive things to, and not always believe terrible things are coming my way, because it's not true. Good things happen to me all the time. But, you lose someone and that lens kind of gets put down and it's so hard to remove it. But some other ways that I've just seen grief, that ripple effect, impact me is, I remember last summer, I was going to the dermatologist. I had this spot under my nose, and I was paranoid that it was skin cancer because my mom had had a form of skin cancer, and I had this spot on my calf that I was worried about. And for so long, I should say, I did not want to go in because I was just paranoid. I was scared. I was terrified. And as the appointment was drawing closer, I was getting more and more emotional. And I started realizing I'm so fearful because of losing my dad, and I'm just missing him as I'm approaching this appointment. And I'm feeling like I'm going to be gone, like my dad is gone. And it's just wild how grief has this way of getting into every nook and cranny of your life. It reminds me of have you ever seen those, they're like a prank gift that you can send someone. You don't do this to someone you love. You probably should do this to someone you hate if you're going to do it. But you send someone a box of exploding glitter. And I feel like the moment your loved one passes, it's like the glitter goes off. And then the months and years later where you're finding these little specks of glitter everywhere still is how the ripple effect of grief works. So grief is like glitter. It's always there. Like one of the glitter bomb packages. My husband actually has a really funny joke about glitter that I'm not going to tell, because if he decides to become a stand-up comedian one day. I don't want to spoil the joke that he has. But grief just gets onto everything. It impacts every relationship you have. It impacts your marriage. It impacts your friendships. It impacts how you approach making new friends. It impacts everything. Even recently, I went to the ER because I stupidly took ibuprofen on an empty stomach. We were going out to dinner with these new friends or about to go out to dinner. I had this gnarly headache. I was like, I am not going to be able to be present. I need to take something. I usually don't take ibuprofen, but we were rushing out the door. I'm like, okay, I need to take something because I cannot get rid of this pain. Should have eaten something. I knew I should have, but I didn't. And then like an hour and a half, we're in dinner and I am having these like gnarly stomach pains beginning. And so, later on, I'm still struggling hours later and we decide to go to the ER because I'm like, okay, I'm worried. Maybe I burned a hole in my stomach or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm bleeding. So we go to the ER and I was sitting there in the hospital room waiting for a nurse to come in again. And I was just sitting there and I started welling up with tears because I was hearing the hospital beeps. And it reminded me of my dad when I was in the hospital room with him. And it was just such an emotional moment. But it's so interesting how grief not only impacts everything in your life, every perspective and outlook, like every scenario, but it also, I just lost my train of thought. Wow, buzzkill for the emotional moment. But yeah, it's this ripple effect of grief is interesting. No one told me about it until I was in it. But I guess it's one of those things that you can't really be prepared for it because it's going to affect people in totally different ways. And everything I do now in life, I feel like I approach it from the lens of having navigated grief and loss and having lost my dad. Some things, it's really positive and it's a good thing that I approach life in that way. Like, I want to try to be more present because I know life is so short. Some things it's negative, and I approach other things with fear and anxiety and worry because I'm worried I'm going to lose it or it's not going to pan out well or it's just going to be a difficult situation. So it's like it's a blessing and it's a curse. How do I harness more of like the blessings of that ripple effect? And I think that just really comes down to having a mindset shift with it. But there is no doubt that grief impacts every part of your life. And like I said, it can be a positive, it can be a negative. But I think it just comes down to like grief changes you. It completely changes you as a person. And there's so many things about myself now that are more beautiful. I'm not who I was before. There are aspects of me that are still me. But I'm a different person because of loss. And I think there's a lot of character traits that are more beautiful. There's some character traits that are not so beautiful, and I want to improve them. Grief certainly has a ripple effect that will touch every part of your life. And there are so many moments I'm like, I didn't think that was going to affect me in that way. And I didn't think I was going to feel my emotions and grief in that way still. But I do. And it still surprises me. And I don't know why, but it does. So, moral of the story, grief is like glitter. It's going to get everywhere and on everything. And that's okay because it shapes who you are. And I think a lot of times it shapes you into a truly beautiful person that hopefully can help others and just be more present and full of life. We'll talk soon.